Republicans have endangered access to IVF treatment in the state of Alabama. So the Alabama Supreme Court has recently ruled that frozen embryos are children. Now, how did this all come about? Why is the Supreme Court even making these decisions? Where did this happen? What is going on here? Well, the Alabama Supreme Court said 3 Alabama couples who lost frozen embryos during an accident at a storage facility said that they could sue the fertility clinic and hospital for the wrongful death of a minor child. So they're saying that, like, I think they went into the room, they touched this is what I think was going on. They touched the containers where the embryos were being stored. They were very cold. They dropped them. And when they dropped them, they shattered. They broke the embryos, right? So now they're saying that was tantamount to manslaughter, right? Wrongful death of a minor child. Crazy. So the court fell short of granting embryos all constitutional rights. So they're not saying that that an embryo has all the constitutional rights and the rights that are given to them within like the 14th Amendment of like equal protection clause or anything like that.
Yeah.
They didn't go that far, but they went far enough, and we'll get into the repercussions of this. In the decision, the court actually directly cited the Bible. So they said that, this is a quote, it is as if, so, okay, let me rewind. Recently, the people of Alabama voted in a amendment to the Constitution that is called the Sanctity of Unborn Life. So this amendment was all kind of around abortion. So then they say this, okay? This is a quote from the decision. It is as if the people of Alabama took what was spoken of the prophet Jeremiah and applied it to every unborn person in this state. But this is a quote from the Bible. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. Jeremiah 1:5. So this is saying that the Alabamans put in their they're saying that the Alabamans put Bible language in their Constitution by passing the Sanctity of Unborn Life Amendment. So that's what they're suggesting here. So they're saying, they're quoting the Bible in these decisions. Apparently, this Chief Justice quotes the Bible all the time. It's not new to him. He quotes the Bible all the time. It's absolutely ridiculous and ludicrous.
I'm sure Alabamans like it.
I bet they love it. That's why he's in that position.
Yeah.
Right? That's why he's there. He wouldn't be there if the Alabamans didn't like it and, want that type of Christian nationalism involved in their government. And now in response to this, 3 IVF facilities have indicated that they will stop all treatment in the state in response to this. This is a quote from one of their leaders. We are saddened that this will impact our patients' attempts to have a baby through IVF, but we must evaluate the potential that our patients and our physicians could be prosecuted criminally or face punitive damages for following the standards of care for IVF treatment. This is exactly the same stuff that happens when abortions get regulated to the point that doctors get scared that if they perform an abortion, they're going to lose their license or go to jail. And what happens is the performance of abortions go through the floor, and now no one has access to the health care that they need or deserve.
Yeah.
IVF should not be something that gets regulated like this. It's insane to say that an embryo is the same thing as a born child.
Yes, it is. It is insane.
I mean, by that logic, IUDs should be illegal because an IUD functions by not allowing a fertilized egg to attach to the uterine line. So it's an embryo that's existing, that's trying to attach to the uterine line, and then the IUD stops it from being able to attach itself to the uterus. And so it falls out.
Okay.
That's killing an embryo.
I see.
And that's exactly where they're going with this.
Yeah.
That's where this is.
Birth control is not allowed, is where they're going.
Right. They're going with birth control is not allowed.
Whew.
Yes. So there's awful testimony from parents who have said that, they were excited to go through IVF treatment, and these IVF facilities have called them and tell them that they can't do it anymore. And like what was supposed to be the best day of their life is now like one they're going to remember forever as the day that they don't get to, be with their kid.
Yeah.
And it's important because why is this impacting IVF so much? Well, the IVF procedure fertilizes like 5 embryos at a time because it's a very expensive procedure to do, and the success rate isn't that high. So what happens is you normally do 5, you may get 2, you do like 10 and you like save 3 for later. So like you can have multiple kids down the line.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's a massive percent of Americans that go through IVF treatment. Okay. And now we're in this position where IVF is threatened in Alabama. The Attorney General of Alabama has said that he's not going to prosecute anybody for this, but that doesn't mean that individuals can't prosecute IVF providers for this the same way these people have.
Exactly. It's too risky. Just like we've talked about with abortion restrictions, it prevents doctors from wanting to do abortions, even if they're supposed to be within the exemptions of these laws.
Yep.
You're going to have the same problem with IVF, where it's just not worth it for these IVF facilities to actually go through with the surrogacies.
No, absolutely. And so now this isn't just a problem for Alabama Republicans. This is a problem for national Republicans too.
This is so interesting to me.
Yeah,
how they've responded.
This is the response here is telling. So national Republicans are struggling with the Alabama IVF decision. Multiple national Republican leaders have come out and say that they don't agree with anything that would put IVF in danger. That's their language, though. They don't say they don't agree with the decision. They don't say they don't agree that embryos aren't humans, right? They say they don't agree with anything that would put IVF access in danger. They're not attacking the fundamental thing that put IVF in danger.
Sure.
So Mr. Johnson, St. Louis Republican, has made clear his position.
You said St. Louis, Louisiana Republican.
Louisiana Republican has made clear his position as a pro-life Christian, and he is joined with President Trump and a slew of other Republicans that IVF treatment is good to go. Totally fine.
Yes. Well, what Trump said in his Truth Social post is we need to have more babies, not fewer, right? And so that's kind of their bottom line here.
Okay.
I mean, does that make sense to you?
No, listen. It makes sense to me, but it shouldn't make sense to every pro-life conservative out there, because haven't they been saying forever that life begins at conception? Mm-hmm. If life begins at conception, that is your line. Own it. Now that a court has finally makes the determination that you've been asking for decades, they finally tell you, you're right, life does begin at conception. They're like, oh shit, no it doesn't. Life doesn't begin at conception. That's crazy. It would be way too crazy. We wouldn't be able to have enough kids. People who want kids wouldn't be able to have them. Yeah. We need more babies. Just kidding. Life doesn't begin at conception, guys. I'm just kidding. Embryos aren't people. That would be absolutely ridiculous. They've been saying it for decades, and now the second the dog finally catches the car, they have no idea what to do with it, and they freak the fuck out.
Yeah, their ideological purity is really under attack here.
Yeah, because there is absolutely no idea.
Yeah, they don't actually have it.
It's about controlling women's bodies. It's not about life. It's not about the baby. They just want more. They just want women to be children's factories. That's why they're cool with IVFs. That's why they're saying we need more kids.
I think you're going too far.
You think I'm going too far with that?
Yeah. Well, I think you're foregoing compassion to make a more radical statement on it. I think.
What compassion are you talking about?
Like the fact that these are actually people's beliefs, and they don't hold them for malicious reasons of controlling other people. And rather,
I don't see any beliefs here. That's my issue.
That life does begin at conception.
Right. No one believes that. None of these elected officials believe that.
I think. I mean, maybe they don't.
Well, you can't believe that and before IVF. No, IVF is literally killing things. Then you're killing people.
No, you're not killing people, because IVF still allows you to have babies from those embryos.
No, but you kill embryos to get that baby born.
What?
When I told you before, like every IVF treatment, there are multiple embryos that get embedded because it's so expensive a procedure. So 5 might get embedded, 1 might survive. There's also cases, and this is the vast majority of cases, 2 survive, but they only want 1 kid, so they throw the other 2 out.
Yes, but these are still embryos that otherwise would just go unfertilized. Most of the time.
Embryos that would go unfertilized doesn't make sense, because an embryo is fertilized. The definition of an embryo is sperm, egg together.
Okay. I don't know enough about female biology.
So that's what we're saying. So we have 2 babies that are being thrown from the Republicans' perspective. IVF takes 2 babies, throws them in the garbage to birth 1 baby. Okay? Well, they're not coming at this from a utilitarian analysis or anything.
Do you not think there is something, like there is a real belief about just having more babies?
And no, that's fine. That's awesome. I love that idea. But it is totally inconsistent with the belief of that embryos are children.
I don't think
it can't be.
I think it can be both.
How?
I think it can be like, yes, we want. It can be like 2 things can be true at once. You can want more babies, but also not want to kill babies, and so you find some kind of balance between those to say, okay, I'm still okay with having these embryos become full-grown born people at the cost of some other embryos.
But I just want you to understand, from their logic then, if they truly believe that embryos are people,
then they're killing some people to let other people live.
That's what they're doing.
Yes.
That's fucking crazy, right? If that's truly how they're thinking, what I'm saying is they're not actually thinking that way.
No. It's like what they're really thinking like is there's a spectrum of being a person.
Right. And if they can admit that there's a spectrum of being the person, then everything they're talking about is all bullshit.
Sure.
The second that they admit that there's a spectrum, then life doesn't begin at conception. And if life doesn't begin at conception, then everything you've been fighting for the last 4 decades has just been all lies.
Okay.
You've been saying life begins at conception for 50 years.
Yeah.
And not only have they been saying this for 50 years, they actually have a bill titled the Life at Conception Act. This aims to extend the legal protection of life to fetuses from the moment of conception, effectively granting them full human rights under the law. What does this mean? It means that every single embryo will have the equal protection clause granted in them with the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. So that will give fetuses, embryos, fetuses, whatever, the 14th Amendment protection. The bill completely eliminates IVF treatment. It does not carve out IVF anything. So again, I already explained the whole IVF procedure. 124 Republicans have co-sponsored the legislation. Multiple of them have actually come out and said that they would never ban IVF treatment, even as they're signed on a bill that bans IVF treatment. It is crazy how they're talking out two sides of their mouth in a way that I can't even fathom. What it tells me is that these Republicans don't read the bills.
No, I agree. I think they don't understand the bill.
They don't know what the bill means. They haven't
thought about this contingency.
They haven't. I don't think they've thought a day in their life, let alone this contingency. So now, Nancy Mace is one Republican who has not co-sponsored this year's version of the bill, but did co-sponsor the bill back in 2021. She's trying to triangulate on the issue. She's trying to find the happy middle ground. So she is pushing for a non-binding resolution to say that IVF is good and it should be legal everywhere. Democrats are proposing a bill that would protect IVF everywhere and ensure that no state could ever ban it. Nancy Mace doesn't like that. She only likes the non-binding resolution that has really, really strong language that says IVF is just so important, but does nothing to punish or bar states from banning the practice if they try to. So it's all virtue signal bullshit. These people have got caught on the national stage being religious, zealous, theocratic freaks, and they don't know how to deal with it. Because if you run a campaign on the party that bans IVF, you're going to lose, and you deserve to lose, and you deserve to never have power again. So hopefully the Democrats can exploit the hell out of this and make sure every Republican who's co-sponsored on this or has ever co-sponsored anything previously, either everyone make sure that they know that they're illiterate and don't read the bills they sign up for, don't have the mental capacity to understand the side effects and the contingencies of what they vote on and what they support, or that they're all just liars who don't believe life begins at conception and just wants to control the woman's body.
I still think you're being too harsh.
I
think you're not giving them enough of the benefit of the doubt, because sure, you can say that they are technically liars for if they don't actually believe that life begins at conception, that there is some kind of spectrum of humanness, right? But then every politician has something that they have trouble walking back and like finding the exact wording that they can thread through the media in a way that isn't going to get them called out. So I understand, like, they are obfuscating. They are trying to avoid saying that exact thing and and keep their base pleased. And I think it is important to point that out, but I don't think it is. I think you're exaggerating by portraying it as some like absolute abomination or like having a total outcry about it. I feel like this is not something that is unique to evangelicals and people who say that they think life begins at conception.
I think evangelicals do believe life begins at conception. I don't think these elected people do.
You don't think any of these elected people are actually evangelicals? Like Mike Johnson.
They might be evangelicals, but that doesn't mean that they have to believe life. I do not think that anyone who is okay with IVF believes life begins at conception. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it literally isn't possible.
So you think But what about just the people who haven't thought it through? Like, don't you think there's a lot of evangelicals out there that think
you're right. No, you're right. You're right. You're totally right. They could either be extremely stupid or abject liars. It's either or.
I don't think it's extremely stupid. I think
this is like the second question you ask when you say that an embryo is a baby.
Sure, but have they even been asked if an embryo is a baby before this?
Don't you ask yourself when you think about it? Like, don't you don't you think about the beliefs you have before you like write bills about them and then sign on to them? This is why I can't take these people seriously, bro. Right? Like, if this is going to be your thing, Mike Johnson runs on a pro-life. Life it begins at conception agenda. And then the second a court finally tells you life begins at conception, he's like, no, it doesn't. Yeah. Nope, no, it doesn't. Doesn't do that. I'm sorry. Doesn't do that. We need more babies, actually. At the end of the day, we need more babies. Oh, but it blows my mind.
Okay.
Blows my mind.
I hear you.
Blows my mind. So that's where the Republican Party is now. They're trying to reverse IVF treatment. And can't forget that. And I hope every Democrat runs on this because it's insane. And this is another thing, okay? No, this is why I have issues with moderate Republicans. You might have a moderate Republican in your New York or California House district. That's fine. But when you give the House of Representatives, when you give the Republicans the majority in the House of Representatives, Republicans from Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee get on committees and become the chair of committees that run the country. So yeah, you might think, oh, I'm just voting for this moderate Republican who doesn't believe IVF is bad. Okay, that's fine. Well, you're going to have a guy from Tennessee who's on the health committee who does believe that IVF needs to go away. And he co-sponsored this piece of legislation. So voting for a moderate Republican is not safe, even if he personally is okay with IVF.
Yeah, and it also just adds a number to their tally to be able to pass through the bills of whoever does sponsor these kinds of bills.
Yeah.
And because as we see consistently, people just vote along party lines. We talk about how the candidate matters as far as getting elected, but I think that's a big difference. The candidate tends to matter much more in a campaign than they do as a member of the House of Representatives. At least I think the senators, the individual senators, is a little different. Yeah. I think they're more of leaders on their own. But in the House, it's a numbers game between the parties.
What were we talking about with Tom Suozzi, right? Tom Suozzi was probably the only Democrat who was going to win New York District 3 by 9 points.
Yeah.
Probably the only Democrat who could have done that. But he's going to vote with Joe Biden 100% of the time, just like he did in the last session.
Even though when he campaigned, he was specifically saying the left has gone too far in this way, and this way, and this way.
Yeah.
Right? He's just going to be the left.
He's just going to vote for Biden the whole way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. So
totally.
That's what any moderate Republican will do too.